Hey guys, what is up? Author Michaela Jade here. It is finally Friday. Thank freaking God it's Friday. Okay, so first things first, let's start this off with the fun. I am proud to say I am a part of the Rising Tide Broadcast Network. If you don't know what that is, look that up. There are great shows on it, like Brian K. Morris with his Clever Title Pending, and never mind the Furthermore. There's Amy Hale with her shows, Creative as Hale. There's Nicholas Anthony Tucker, who comes on right after me, where you can learn to kill your friends safely. Who doesn't that? So, follow along. As soon as my video is over, find Nicholas, and then we will jump right into where you can find me. When I'm not here on YouTube, or I'm not on Facebook, or I'm not at the day job, many things going on. You can find me, the first place you can find me signing books will be the Indie Author Book Expo at the Peoria Civic Center, Peoria, Illinois. So that's May 29th. I know it's Memorial Day weekend, but you can kind of, put the burger thing on the side burner. Put the burgers on the side burner, let them warm. Come out to the park, or come out to the Civic Center, rather. The next one I will have will be at Detweiler Park. Detweiler Park is June 5th. It's a arts and crafts show, but I'll also be there with my books. There might even be some other authors there. So come enjoy the day, enjoy the park. It's beautiful down there in Detweiler Park. So come out and see us. The next one would be June 19th, Wild Deadwood Reads. That's my most exciting one because it's the biggest one that I'm going to this year. Then July 17th, Heroes for Kids in Perryville, Missouri. Then I've got October 2nd, Expo Gardens, Peoria, Illinois again. So then there's one that I'd forgotten to mention in the last video, but October 8th and 9th. I believe it's just the 9th. It's the Saturday. Hohenwald, Tennessee is doing a like county fair kind of thing. And they're letting vendors set up booths. One of my good friends lives near there, and she said, "Come on down, let's set up a table." So that's where I'll be in October. So in October, you can find me in Peoria, Illinois, and then the very next weekend, you'll find me down in Hohenwald, Tennessee. So if you're going to be in the area, let me know. I'll get you directions and come see me and get some books. I'll sign them for you right there. And so with that, let's get into it. So tonight for Tidbits and Scribbles, I had some advice on what to write or how to write. So one of the things that I had heard was, well, I don't know if I should write for the market or not. Let me just pause a minute. Say that again, write for the market? I don't know about you, but me, it takes me a little bit to come up with a story, come up with a plot line, then write said story, then edit said story. By the time all that's done, the market has moved on. So if the market is all about vampires this minute, the next minute they're all about cowboy western romance. Why would you write for the market? Why on earth would you do that? And then you get stuck in the rut of you don't really like the story that you're writing, but you're writing it so that you can make money or write for the market. Write what you want to read. If it's something that you're passionate about reading, write that shit. Like for the first one, you can ask yourself, would you pick up the book and read it? If the answer is no, don't write it. You're not going to make a good story out of something that you don't like. If you don't like it, how are you supposed to immerse yourself in it and write a story the reader wants to read? Another thing you can ask yourself is, would you look for a book like it? If the answer is no, don't write the book. Is it a genre that you enjoy? Now, maybe you've surprised yourself and you read something not in a genre that you normally would have read and you really liked it. Explore it some more. Maybe that's something you should write. The next thing on that is, can you develop the characters? And this all goes in, do you like it? Are you absorbed in it? Can you write the characters in a way that your readers are going to just soak that up and want to like root for the character. Can you write it in a way that your reader wants more? They want to know what happens to that character, what happens in the future to the character. Maybe you've ended the book and your readers are chomping at the bit for the next one. That's a good story. The last one I have on that is the structure of the story believable? So yes, I write fantasy, but even with fantasy, there has to be that give and take of, is this plausible? Like if the heroine of the story is an assassin, would the assassin break down in tears because she broke a nail? Probably not. So you've gotta keep your character structure, your story structure all together. If you are writing a Western story, there's not going to be cars, there's not going to be cell phones, it's just not. It's story structure. The next thing I've got is write with intention. If you have the intention to do poetry and inspire people, then write your poetry, inspire people, do your thing. If that's what you're called for, if that's what you feel like is your calling, nobody can tell you not to. Do it. Do your thing. If you feel like you are called to write nonfiction self-help books, write nonfiction self-help books. If you really like romance, write romance. If you really like a steampunk, write steampunk. Whatever it is that you love, write that. It will come across the pages unbelievably well when you like it. You can tell when an author is trying to pull the story out or is fumbling with the details or maybe the facts, or they're trying to write historical, but they've never researched the history that they're trying to write. You can tell in the story. The story's jumbled, or it's missing pieces, or it just doesn't fit. So make sure that you're writing with intention. You intend your reader to come out with something. So the next thing I have is use psychology to write better characters. That doesn't mean go psycho. I know some of y'all, okay? I see you in the comments, okay? Don't go psycho. It means use psychology. If you have a strong character, that strong character is going to react much differently than a character who's weak of character. Someone who is... The only thing I can think right off the top of my head is a city person versus a country person. So a city person might see a snake and run the other way. A country person might see a snake and be like, that's a snake. Or they might want to destroy said snake. It's a different type of character. It's a different lifestyle. It's a different persona. But if your character doesn't follow your persona and doesn't follow their situation and what they would do, like you put your own self in it, like what would you do in the situation? Well, if you're not that sort of person, how would you know? So you got to use a little psychology there. It will build your characters. It will make them not flesh and blood. It will make them more real in your mind, more real in your reader's mind. The next thing I have, write as often as you can. I don't care if you're sitting in, not in traffic. That's bad. I don't care if you're sitting in an airport. I don't care if you're really, really busy. Take out your phone. Every phone has a notebook app, or you can download a notebook app, or get out the old-fashioned pen and paper like I do. My purse is big enough, and most ladies, your purses are big enough. We have a notebook, whether it's a little tiny notebook or a notebook, like real size notebook. You have somewhere you can write down an inspiration or a quick quote that you saw written on a wall and it inspired you. Something that you saw a little kid interacting with their mom and that inspired you for a scene in your story. Write it down. Because I promise you, when you're done with your kids at the end of the day, your job at the end of the day, you're done cleaning house, you're exhausted. You're not going to remember that one little scene, that perfect little moment, exactly the way you wanted to remember it. But you'll sit at your computer and you'll stare at that cursor thinking, I know how to write this. What did I see? What was the strongest thing I remembered? And you'll forget, because that's life and it happens. The next thing I have for you is eliminate distractions. So you've written all these things down throughout your day. You found these moments of inspiration, and maybe it's a week. Maybe you've stuck them in your purse for a week or whatever. And now you've got this stack of inspirational notes that you found, or inspirational stories. I want you to set those down, go to your computer or go to your notebook. If you're like me and you like to do the old school stuff and the pen and the paper, do it that way. Take those snippets and see what kind of a story you can build. It may be nothing, but it might be a story later on. It might be the beginning of a series. It might be the beginning of a good book. It might be the beginning of a poem. You don't know until you just sit down and write. Just let your creative stuff run and just write. The next thing, research, storytelling, and structure. I don't know how many times I've said this to newbies, and even older, right? Not necessarily older, but more experienced writers and authors. Research, please just research, because I promise you, there was a point in history when they didn't know what antivenom was. So if your character got snake bit, they're not going to get antivenom like you would now. The caveat there is you could play it up as help was too far away to get antivenom if you are in the right time period. If antivenom wasn't created until 1922 and your story takes place in 1919, it's not going to work. First of all, it wasn't invented. Second, you're in the country and they know about antivenom. Probably not a perfect scenario. So you're going to have to take it out, figure out what you can use, what you can't use, because history is written. We already know that antivenom didn't come out until whatever it was, 1922, and you're writing a story in 1919. Those kind of things aren't going to work. Now, you might not get every reader to catch that, but there are going to be readers that come to you and say, that doesn't work in your story. That's not true, and it can't be true because of this. And you're not writing fantasy, you're writing historical fiction. So even with historical fiction, it still has to kind of run along the lines of true to fact, sort of. Okay, so the next thing, always get feedback. Before you click publish, I don't care if it's with a publisher or you publish it yourself. Before you click publish, get some feedback. It will save you so much, because all of us write a book and think, this is brilliant. I am the best writer ever. No, you're not. Now, that doesn't mean you can't write a good story. It doesn't mean that you're not a good writer. It means you can't see the forest for the trees. Because trust me, as much as I've written, as much as I like writing, and I've been published before, and I've published myself, there are still things I can't see. My critique partner came to me and she said, did you read chapter 8 after you wrote it? I said, no, not really. I don't think I did. Maybe I did. Yeah, I think I did. It's not that bad, is it? And she says, are you kidding me? Go read it. But read it like an editor. Don't read it like a writer. And as soon as I read it, I think I was in line 3. And I went, oh my God. Until it's pointed out to you, sometimes you can't see the forest for the trees. So get critique partners. I don't care if you call them your tribe. I don't care if you call them critique partners. I don't care if you call them beta readers. Get different opinions. I don't care if you hand it off to grandma and have grandma read it. Get her opinion. Because she might see something that you never would have thought of. Hand it off to your best friend. If it's kid appropriate, hand it off to your teenager and say, hey, does this chapter make sense to you? Do the timeline of events happening here make sense? They will tell you. Teenagers are perfect for that. They will tell you, no, this sucks. Then you have to ask why, because they don't elaborate. So get details. Okay, the next thing I have, find new ways to phrase things, but don't overdo it. Okay, so here's what I'm saying. You could say the sky is blue. Sure, you could. The sky is blue. We all know the sky is blue. Or you could phrase it like let me see here. I didn't write this down, so I'm winging this. So let's say you were trying to describe a storm coming in. You could say the clouds looked heavy and dark, and the wind was picking up, instead of it looked like a storm was coming in. So just think about it. Just take a moment and like in your everyday life, you have your coffee cup. How else can you describe your coffee cup? Yeah, it's a coffee cup. We all know that. That's what it is. But it's also a vessel. It's also a holder of liquid. There's many different ways to describe things. And just as goofy as that is, as goofy as that might sound, even if you were just to think it out loud, say it out loud. When you say it, you'll hear, it sounds funny, but when you say it, you will hear the differences and you'll catch on those. And you'll think to yourself, oh, that is a better way to describe that. Or have your critique partner send it back to you with what she suggested. And you're like, oh, I should have seen that coming. That's like a door to the face. You'll see it. Take little things throughout your day. You know, the dog walking down the street. Okay, it's a dog walking down the street. Was it tall? Was it fat? Was it black? Was it brown? Was it purple? Describe it differently. Not the dog walked down the street. Describe it as the large black dog walked down the street. Now we've got a different thing, but it's the same thing. It's the same thing said differently. Practice. I just practice, okay? Do us all a favor and practice. That's all I'm asking. Okay, one of the last things, I'm almost done, guys, I promise. One of the last things is practice thinking or saying it out loud, kind of what I've already touched on. When you're writing, it's one thing. And some of us on our programs that we have this read aloud feature. Let it read aloud and see what it sounds like. Because trust me, when that robot voice reads it, and then you're like, oh, that kind of sucks. That was shitty. Oh, let me rewrite that. Or have your friend read it back to you. There's one you won't like. Have your friend read it back to you. And you're like, oh, that was shitty. It's fine. You can fix it. That's why you don't click publish yet. You can fix it. Okay. So with all that, use strong language. Use the language that draws your reader in. Because if you just said, I took a walk. Okay, you took a walk. That is not interesting at all. But if you said, I took a walk in the rain, and by the time I got home, my boots were full of water, I was soaked to the bone. Now we want to know, why were you walking in the rain? Wow, that was really heavy rain if you are soaked to the bone. How far did you have to walk? Why did you walk? So use strong language. Anytime that you can throw in a stronger word or verb to describe something, you should. Because your reader doesn't want to read your grocery list. They want to read a story. They want you to tell them a story. They don't want you to tell them, I went to the grocery store, I got $300 worth of groceries, and I came home. Yes, that's a story, but it's not an interesting story. They want to know, I went to the grocery store intending to buy groceries, and this happened. That's an interesting story. So the last thing I have for you guys, I lied, I have two. Just write to write. Okay? Sit down and write whatever it is that you want to write. I don't care if it's poetry. I don't care if it's a novel. I don't care if it's a short story. I don't care if it's fan fiction. Write it. Write it because you love it. Just write it. Because at some point, maybe it won't be that particular piece that you worked on that will get published, that will be your best seller. Maybe it's the one you did just after that. Or maybe it's the one that you picked up after writing that piece, and you picked up that old piece and you edited that old piece. Just keep writing. Every time you write, you should be honing your craft. Every time you write, you should be learning something about your style, something about your voice, something about your writing. Every time you write, every book that I've written has gotten better. That's why Warrior Secret, which was my first book that was out, isn't necessarily my favorite. There's editing in there that I don't like. There are phrases in there I don't like because I have grown as a writer. And I don't have Warrior's Worth back there. But I think Warrior's Worth is my best one so far because I'm not done. And it's not my first. So my first, I stumbled. You're supposed to stumble as a writer. I just wish I wouldn't have stumbled so hard. So the last thing, promise, last thing, learn every day. If you really are dreaming of being a published author or a better author than you are now, learn every stinking day. I don't care if it's you learned just the simple fact that ISBN numbers can be assigned by Amazon, or you can buy your own. And it's different strokes for different folks, because some authors will tell you, no, just let Amazon do it. It's no big deal. Others will tell you, no, you need your own ISBN number, and here's why. You've got to do the research that I talked about. So learn every day. I don't care if it's something little, but learn every day. Okay, and so with that, I will let you guys go. Don't forget to check out Nick Tucker with his Historical Fencing Guild right after this on YouTube. Hop over there, give it a like, talk to Nick. He will talk all day about swordplay. I promise it'll be fun. It always is. And I will catch you on the flip-flop.